What's up, sons? It's Blind Rod with Son of a Tech once again, and today I'm going to show you how to set up and configure a Factorn node for mining Fact. In this particular case, it will require that you build a node and that you solo mine. And a big disclaimer here, due to the difficulty on the network, it is a race to finish a factoring math problem. This means that you need a pretty hefty CPU, or in some cases, what you could do is a server with multiple sockets. It's really up to you, but just a heads up, if you're just even trying to do this on like a 7950X, a top of the line desktop processor, you're probably not going to be successful. However, why is Factor such a big deal? Well, they are the recipients of the Crypto Community Fund grant, and this means that they did win this grant from Coinbase themselves, which is a big deal. And in particular, the big thing surrounding this as far as why you should be interested outside of Coinbase backing it is that it introduces a new blockchain with proof of work securing transactions just like Bitcoin, but replacing the work component by factoring integers instead of hashing. In addition, one more new idea is introduced to the blockchain space, a dead pool for the proof of work. The Factor blockchain's development has been funded in its entirety by Coinbase through their 2021 Crypto Community Fund program. Now, the main chain is online now, and that is why we're bringing this up. I will leave sources down below for you to go to their GitHub, for example, and pick up all of the commands. In addition to that, I have an article with a guide covering it from the perspective of a written guide. If you want to go copy the commands out of there, you will need to be a supporter over on Locals to do that. Links will be down below, but let's go ahead and without further ado, hop right into it. So I have a VM just running here to go through the process with you guys, and it will be pretty straightforward. I just want to make sure you guys understand that this particular VM only has 8 cores. It's not going to solve this in time, but I can give you guys an idea of how to get it configured. The first step, of course, is going to make sure that you have your packages and everything up to date. We'll be utilizing Ubuntu version 22.04.1 in this particular case, but just a quick note, it is only verified for Ubuntu version 20.04. So if you want to be safe, install that version. If you are new to Linux, please check out my Linux guides first before getting into this so you understand some of the basics as far as navigating the command line, etc. before hopping in. Okay, so you can see here that I'm logged into my console. I'm going to do a clear command just to make this as easy as possible, and this will function with Tor. From my understanding, Tor is not necessarily required for this, but if you want the steps on how to utilize and configure Tor for this particular setup, you can do that over on my locals page. Today, we're not going to be covering the Tor setup for this particular portion. You also do not need to build any dependencies. You can download the binaries directly and get them installed, so that makes that easier. You can also run any of the apt update commands, etc. if you need to patch your system before continuing. That being said, today we're going to go ahead and move forward, and we will be installing this in root. So to get to root, we're just going to do sudo su and type in our username and password, or password for the username. And then we are in our root directory, so we can always see what our, or not our root directory, but our home directory for that user. You can always type in pwd to see that. You can see we're in home.sun. I want to go to the root home directory, so I'm going to do a change directory, or cd and tilde. Now, if I do a pwd, you'll see we're in /.root. We can do an ll and see what is already here. You can see that we've done the guide for Caspa already on this particular system. I'm going to go ahead and run another clear to clear out the screen. So the next step here is going to be downloading and grabbing the binaries for Factorn. We're going to run a wget command and pull the latest release from the Factorn GitHub, and you can get this command once again from the locals. Press enter and you can see that we'll download it. We'll do an ll command, and what you will see here is that we now have this Factorn file here in a tar.gz. We'll need to go ahead and unpack that particular setup, and the easiest way to do this is if we do a real quick clear so you can see the whole page, and we'll do an ll to show this again. What I like to do is, obviously we're going to use the tar command. We're going to do xzf for the variables, and then you can just highlight if you're in putty and right click that tar file so you get the name exactly right, and you don't have to go, type it out manually or anything. The other way to do this, of course, is to start typing. Like, let's say we do fct and press tab, and it will complete for that file name. So now we have that file in here. We have the tar command ready for it. We're going to go ahead and press enter, and then we'll do an ll command to confirm that we now have this folder here, this Factorn folder that will have the binaries in it. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a screen. This is just the easiest way so everybody has a good visual of it, but for more advanced users, definitely check out later running binaries as a service, which I can do in another video. If you're interested, let me know in the comment section below. I'm going to go ahead and do a clear, and we're going to type in screen-S, and we're going to name this Factorn with a 0, right? So a 0 instead of an O, and then we're going to press enter, and now we're in a new screen. To leave the screen, we can press Control-A-D, and to reattach to the screen, we can do screen-list. It'll show us that we have this screen running in the background, so we can do a screen-R lowercase and type out the Factorn here with the 0 and the N like we had, and we will reattach to the screen. That's how to get in and out of the screens, just so that you are aware. At this point, we want to run an ll command, and we want to change directory, the cd command, into this Factorn folder. So we're going to highlight it, right click, and press enter. At this point, we can run another ll command just to basically see where we're at in here, and you can see that we don't have the binaries in this actual folder. We need to go one further into the bin folder. So we'll do change directory bin ll, and these are the binaries, and you can see that they're yellow. That yellow or green, I'm a little colorblind, but I think it's yellow in my particular case. That means that these files in particular are going to be executable. So you have the command line interface, you have the node, which is the Factorn D, we have the transactions, utility, wallet, and of course the test if we need all that. And we're going to go ahead and type clear in so we can be ready to go. At this point, what we are going to do is start the node. So to start the node, once again, we'll do an ll. The node, like I said, is going to be this Factorn D. So we're going to do the period and / we're going to highlight the Factorn D, right click, that'll fill that out for us, and we'll press enter. It'll start running the node, but the node is not configured at this particular time for mining. So while it has started mining, we do need to go make some other adjustments. The thing here is that you can see that there's some missing or invalid files in the Factorn or .Factorn peers, and it should start building these out. So we're going to do a Control-A-D and an ll, and you can see here that we have a new folder. Now I did Control-A-D to exit that screen so the node is still running, but we need to configure some more stuff in the .Factorn directory. So we're going to change directory into there, highlight it once again, and right click, press enter. I'll run an ll, and you can see that we have a few different files here. But the file that we need to do is we need to create a configuration file. So to create that configuration file in this directory that we're now in, we're going to do nano, because that's the easiest text editor, but I would highly recommend learning V for more advanced users. We're going to go ahead and create a new file named factorn.conf, and this is actually going to be an O lowercase, not a 0 in this particular case. The 0 is just for the screen that we created to make it easy. We're going to press enter, and in here we need to configure our RPC username and password. So it'll look like this, and you'll type in your username and the RPC password. This will be required for mining. In this particular case, we're just going to go ahead and do the RPC user Sun and the RPC username see you next Tuesday, just to make things easy, but please set a more secure version for your particular setup. So we'll do see you next Tuesday. Easy for me to remember for this guide. Press Control X, press Y to save, press enter. We'll run an LL command and confirm that we have our configuration file here. So we are good to go as far as that is concerned. Now I'm going to do change directory ... to go up one level, and that'll put us back at this primary level. I'm going to go ahead and do a clear. And what I want to do now is reattach to that Factorn screen. So remember, we can do screen-list, see all the screens that are running. And I want to reattach to the Factorn screen that we created earlier. Oops, did that incorrectly. Let's see, screen list. Yeah, we didn't do the lowercase r. There we go, Factorn. Even I make mistakes. Lowercase r, press enter. Now we're reconnected. What we want to do here now is we want to redo essentially the node so that it is ready for mining. So we're going to go ahead and do a Control C, and then we're just going to restart that entire process. So we're going to go ahead and rerun it by typing up. If we go up, it'll give us the last command and give us that factor D, you can see here, and press enter. It'll start running it and we'll be good to go. Now, you will have to wait, like always, for these to go ahead and sync. It can take some time, but once you have it synced up and ready to go, you can move on from there. You can see there's an obfuscation key that is stored in there. You can set that all up if you like. Once again, with that tour from the locals, we're going to do Control AD and leave that alone. And now we're going to configure our wallet. So we're going to want to go back into our bin folder. So we're going to go here and then the /bin and press enter. Now, if we do LL, you can see here that we have all of our binaries. In this particular setup, we're going to start with the Factorn wallet. So we will do the dot and /, highlight the wallet, right click, and we need to create a mining wallet in this particular case. So we're going to do dash wallet equals, this is naming the wallet. I'm going to name it mining, and then descriptors, and then create. And at this point, I will press enter and it will create the wallet for me. So at this point, what I need to do is load the wallet into the CLI. You can see up here that we have this CLI executable. So we're going to do the dot / and then just highlight that CLI and right click so that it goes into there. And we're going to say load wallet. And remember, we named it mining. So we're going to put mining in here, press enter. We got an error code, and I think that's because we're still waiting to load it. Yeah, we might have to wait a little bit longer. All right, we had to wait just a tad longer there, but you can see now that we do have that wallet loaded and is named mining. So at this point, we want to get the new address. I'm going to do a clear, tap up twice to get our CLI, and instead of load wallet, we're going to say get new address, press enter, and this will be the address that we will want to save for later for mining. You can just open up a notepad and paste that over into your notepad for reference later. The other thing that we're going to need to do is get the address info. So we're going to go ahead and do the Factorn CLI, and we're going to say get address info, and we're going to basically highlight the address we got earlier, right click, and it will put it in there for us and press enter. From here, the information that we need is going to be, in particular, the script pub key, and this will be needed for the miner. You can see here, script pub key is what we want. We just want to highlight this. When you highlight it in PuTTY, it automatically copies it. So then you can go to a notepad and right click and paste it into the notepad and save this script pub key for later. So the next thing that we need to do is build the miner. Now, I don't want to build the miner in the binaries folder, so I'm going to go ahead and change directory > to go back to the root folder, and we are going to clone the factoring GitHub, which is the miner for this particular setup. Let me clear here, right click, and you can see that we have our factoring in. We're going to press enter, and it will clone factoring. We can do LL to confirm that it cloned that factoring folder into here. And then at this point, we're just going to change directory into it. We can do a CD command, highlight, right click, enter. We are into the factoring folder, and we're going to utilize Docker in this particular case to begin building the actual miner. So this will actually use another application called Docker. Now for Docker, you will need to install it if you do not already have it installed. You can check that out in a different video if you need, but for this particular case, all I have it installed already. I'm just going to do Docker build -t and then Factorn _ mining and then a period, space period. And then I will do enter and we will build out that in particular. This can take a little bit of time, just give it a little bit. And then once it's complete, you can come back to the video and move on. Now that that is complete, we can start mining. So we are going to go ahead and start a screen for the miner. I'll do the screen -S, and then we could just name it miner and press enter. And at this point, we need to modify essentially a Docker script or Docker run. In particular, we need to do things like on this first line where it says Docker run and then the script pub key. Remember the pub key that we ended up grabbing earlier. We're going to go ahead and paste that here. So you'll go to your notepad, grab the public key that you saved earlier, copy it, right click into putty to paste it, and that will go there. Then you'll need to put in your RPC's username. Remember in this particular case, we just made it Sun, and the password, which we made see you next Tuesday. So we're just going to go ahead and put in see you next Tuesday here. Then finally, we need to set our threads. You can check the amount of threads by running htop on your system. You can see here we have 8 threads. We'll do F10 to quit, clear this out, go back to my command, and we will need to set the commands, the Yahoo threads here to basically 7, because it'll be the max amount of cores we have -1, and our LA threads to the same thing to 7. And at this point, we are ready to run the command. We'll press enter. It'll go through our primes and it'll go through a couple more setups. And then I'll go ahead and talk a little bit about the final kind of run that it begins to do and whether or not you'll find a block, which I think I have figured out, but I'm not completely positive. Definitely check out the links to their Discord and go ahead and hop on over to there if you are wanting more information on it. Okay, so here is essentially where it has begun. To make sure that it is functioning properly, the thing that you want to see is essentially this number of 301 or whatever it is in the particular setup, going from 2 to 3 to 4 and so on, and that the factors are actually solved here. If there's nothing in this output for factors, you are not successfully mining. Now, like I said, the competition is extremely high. So in this particular case, it will probably never solve this in time to actually solve a block with my only 7 or 8 threads. And that is just going to be the way that it is. To leave this screen, of course, you can do Control+A+D to get out of it, and then you can leave your system running and you can check back later. You can go to their block explorer to also basically put in the address that we copied down earlier and see what your balance is from that perspective. If you need help with the wallet commands, they are similar to pretty much every other wallet commands from a CLI perspective across the board. But if you'd like a guide specifically on that, let me know down in the comment section below. I am pretty excited to see where this project heads to in the future. It is already listed on ZegX for purchase. If you wanted to invest into it, of course, not financial advice. If you don't have a CPU though, that can basically solve it and you can't mine it, you can always go purchase it instead. if you think that, this project in particular is going to head somewhere in the future. Once there are pools and different mining options and additional miners available, and once it moves into GPU mining, of course, I will update you guys as necessary. You can check all the references down in the description below. And thanks for watching. Don't forget, if you would like to check out the written guide for this, you can go to sonofatech.locals.com, where you can become a supporter for $5 a month or $50 a year. In addition, you can get a free month of supporter status on Locals with the purchase of my crypto mining e-course at sonofatech.com. Thanks for watching, and I will see you next Tuesday.